Hello and welcome to the video. We are on the road again. We are off to the very final round of Access Karting's Championships, and it is the O Plate. And for this particular weekend, I am not in my GX UK kart. So what I am going to do is, thanks to the lovely Richard Melton Baxter, he has lent me his Pro Kart because he's unable to race this weekend. And thanks to Tornado Race Engines, I'm going to be using the two excellent engines that they lent me for the last round of GX UK. So let's go to Dorchester, let's get all set up, and I can show you around this Pro Kart. And we're here at Clay Pigeon for the O Plate in a Pro Kart. The weekend starts now. Practice 1 on wet tyres. Haven't raced a Pro Kart since like 2011. Let's go have some fun, shall we? Okay, that is good. I mean, I can't see the corner, and I don't know how these brakes work. But it's raining now.
No, it wasn't. It was just spray, you doofus.
Cannot see. I don't like it. I can't see. I need to be more aggressive on turning.
To give you an idea of how bad the visibility actually was, as you come through the kink, as you go over the start-finish line, you can't see the apex for turn 1. They actually stopped proceedings for about 20 minutes until the fog had lifted.
Practice 2!
Now, as I've mentioned before, this is my first ever time on wet tyres. I had no idea what pressure to go. I'd heard 10s and 12s, and somebody told me 20, and that kind of resonated with me based on my experience on driving on slick tyres, so being a little bit lower than slick tyres, I felt might have worked. It didn't. This didn't feel very good, and we're going to watch Christian just swirl away from me into the distance. Now, coming through these corners, obviously I'm getting a bit sideways, but I was noticing I wasn't getting too much pickup, and I think that's down to the fact that the gearing for this car is quite low compared to what it should be for somebody of my weight. So Richard, who runs this kart, is a good sort of 8-9 kilos lighter than me, and I was actually running 7 kilos overweight with this car. And there is a limit on the gearing with these cars, so you can't run more than a 20 front sprot and a 66 rear sprocket. Rich had this set up for him on a 64 rear sprocket. I didn't have any 66 sprockets. I didn't have any sprockets. I didn't have any spares or anything for this car at all. I basically had to run it as it was, and that wasn't quite set up for the way that I wanted to use it. It meant the rears were a little bit too slidey for me, and it also meant the car was just not geared properly. So where these Tornado engines, you will see, give me some absolutely awesome ability to race a bit later on, because it's not geared correctly, I'm not that great at the bottom end. So if I had got a chance to do this whole weekend again, I probably would have gone and bought some sprockets.
So, practice 3, we had a little legality issue. We were too narrow at the rear, so thanks to James Purchase, who has thrown on some new longer rear hubs, I am now legal. And we're out of practice 3. Let's go. I think the next session will be dry tyres. This is mega! Right, practice session 4.
So after a few laps of trying to figure out how to make these tyres work and get some temperature into them, I find myself in a little bit of a practice battle. In front of me is Ewan Rayner, who's one of the top guys in the series. In front of him is the champion of the series, and in front of him is the M plate holder, Nick Williams, who won the Macy Cup here earlier this year. I am around some pedigree from this series, and I really am holding my own. I actually set a really good practice time in this session, and it really gave me confidence going forward into the racing. So that is practice over.
and we are now prepared for the race. That last practice session was really good. I actually ended up P2 into class. We have a little bit of pace. What I found with these karts is a lot of it is about bravery. You know, that kink on the home straight is flat, but you've got to have some bravery for it. Yeah, we're going to the first race, starting on pole. Let's go and have our first ever sprint pro kart race. See you on the other side. Race 1, and I'm starting on pole. So ignore these 4 karts in front of me, 5 karts in front of me. They are mod 160s, they're much faster, they're a different class. So I will be starting this race like 5 seconds behind them. I'll do a staggered start. I gotta wait for the lights to go green, then red, and then green again. Let's go!
So as we take the rolling start up to the line, we wait for the lights to go out. We're full throttle, but Jazz is full throttle before me and is already across the line before I get there. As I lock the rears into turn 1, that will not be the first time that happens this weekend, but I managed to come out in the lead. I take a little bit too much curb and get a massive slide on, but it's fine. I am leading my first ever pro kart race. However, because of where I am at the moment, you can't see much of what's going on behind me because Access Karting doesn't allow rear-facing cameras. So, as we switch to Ewan Rayner's onboard, you can see that I've already well gone through the last corner, and I've actually got quite a decent gap. So I've actually completely led my first ever GX Pro Kart lap. Let's see how much longer I can hold it on for, because as you can see, Peter Stott, the current champion, is right behind me. And as I come out of the chicane, I think I get a really good run, so I move over to the left hand side. However, Peter got an even better run and has a lunge down the inside of me. I give him the room on the outside, I give him the room on the exit. We both kind of swerve towards each other, but I managed to hold it for the horseshoe and then coming into the last corner. And as we switch to Ewan cam, you can see as I go through the final corner, I have a gaggle of 4 karts all over the back of me. And as we come towards the kink, Pete has got a mega run on me and he's already passed me before we even get to turn 1. It makes me run a little bit wide, and the end plate goes past, and then somebody else, which is Christian, also goes past. So unfortunately, after leading 2 laps, I have dropped from 1st down to 4th. Now, these 3 are going to streak away from me a little bit. These guys were just incredibly fast. I do my best to hang on to them, but they are much more experienced with me, and I will claim a little bit of the fact that the rear end of this car is just all over the place, so trying to actually keep with them is really, really tough because I'm spending most of my time going sideways. So, as we roll on a few laps, you can see Christian has really got away from me. He's about 8 tenths ahead of me at this particular point, and I haven't seemed to have made any inroads into him. However, over the next few laps, what you're going to see is all of a sudden I start to figure this kart and this track out, and I start to reel Christian back in. It doesn't help that Christian makes a big mistake like he did going through the hairpin, but I do seem to have the better of him on pace in this final stage of the race. Let's see if we can catch him. And if we run it forward a little bit, we can see that going through turn 1 and 2, I do seem to have a really good advantage. I seem to be able to brake a little bit later and carry lots of speed through the corner. However, I am losing speed on the exit of the chicane. I keep taking too much curb and the kart keeps getting away from me. I also seem to have a little bit of an advantage in the hairpin, while he seems to have a bit more of an advantage in the horseshoe, because again, I can't keep the kart going in a straight line. And then we seem pretty even through the last corner, but yet again I am quite wide on the exits, much wider than I want to be, but we are getting a little bit closer. And as you roll on about 3 laps, I have actually managed to catch Christian. I've been plugging away, taking bit by bit through each and every corner, trying to be a little bit more sensible, and I am closing in on him. And I'm now starting to think about, right, let's get up to his bumper and let's see if I can overtake him. As we come into turn 1, I take this tighter line, which seems to get me a really good drag. I get right up to the back of him as we take through the chicane. I do a better run through that chicane and actually get better on him than I can, but I still haven't got enough to actually get past him. We get into the braking zone. He runs a little bit wide. I take the tighter line yet again. I have to go slightly wide and back off a little bit. Now, what we have to notice here is all of a sudden, because we have started fighting, Ewan is now getting himself into the mix. What you're going to see now is how much fighting costs you around this circuit. As now you can see that I am right up behind Christian. As I am doing so, I'm looking at different opportunities to go into different moves. We both have to brake a little bit early into turn 1 because Christian has to defend from me. I'm having a look up the inside into the chicane and Christian is defending from me. And all the while you have Ewan just catching and catching and catching. As again, Christian takes the wider line on the exit, I take a tighter line through that corner, but again, there is no difference in the gap between the pair of us. I get a little bit of a wobble on, but now Ewan is properly in this fight. I haven't noticed Ewan yet, but I'm going to notice him soon. As I drop back a little bit from Christian, I will have a look over my shoulder and I realise that Ewan is there. As Ewan is there, I then have to go from looking forward and attacking to looking behind and defending. As now, well in the know that I'm being attacked, I go into the chicane, I get a big swapper on, so I go to the inside, have to white line it down to the hairpin, but Ewan goes to the outside. I manage to keep a very tight line and keep it tight on the exit so that he doesn't get the speed to run through me as we come through the horseshoe. And again, I'm just trying to park it on the apexes so that he hasn't got anywhere to go to actually have any form of decent run on me. I don't go all the way to the outside of the circuit, coming up to the final corner, and I'm just staying in the middle of the circuit so it doesn't give him a way to open up the angles and have a run at me. But he's got a good run down to the first corner and he is down the inside of me. But what I managed to do is hang around the outside, get the power down early and cut across the front of him into the chicane. Again, I get a big swapper on going into that chicane, and now again I have to hold the white line, and we're going to keep repeating this process, but again I park it on the apex. It's really important when you're doing that and you're getting people coming around you, is you don't then carry too much speed into the corners and open up a way for them to get in. Yes, it's obviously cost me bags of time to Christian as he has another look down the inside into the final corner, but as you can see, it's cost me bags of time to Christian, but Ewan is quicker and I can't get past him. But that is us across the line, P4 in my first Pro Kart race.
First Pro Kart race, P4. Oh, that was fucking hard work. Where's the gun? Good race. Oh, he had me sweating there. Oh, my word, that's hard work. Huh? That was hard work. Enjoyed that though.
So that was fun, wasn't it? Those things are very hard to drive, very physical. But yeah, P4, happy with that. I lost out to the champ and the M plate and the guy in third place whose name has slipped my mind. I'm sorry. I was a little bit quicker then and we had a good old fight. And then Ewan was fighting me from behind. We had a good little battle. It's all good. So yeah, we got an evening tonight at the hotel. Gonna have some food, sit with these two. How did your days do?
P3.
Lovely. It's going to be between these three and these two are Matthew Glazebrook, I think, for the win.
And Russell Endine.
And Russell Endine. It's going to be a hell of a fight, I think, between you lot.
There's a very clear four-way top four.
Yeah, four-way top four. Four-way top four. It's usually what happens at the top four, Brad. Excellent, we'll leave it there. See you in the morning.
But right now there's no mist. Yesterday at this time there was mist.
Yeah, look at the track. The track's dry.
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong.
So we've had a mad dash to make changes. So where I thought it was going to dry out and I'd be all right on slicks, it hasn't quite dried out enough, and we've had to make a mad dash and put the kart onto wet tyres. I don't know how I am in the wet, but the wets are a bit old, so we'll see. But if you're interested in doing Pro Karts, Rich Melton Baxter is actually going to rent this kart out for next season. So if you want to go and have a go and get involved in GX Pro Karts, look in the description and there'll be some contact details for Rich Melton Baxter and you can come join the grid.
So we are here for my first ever race start on wet tyres, starting from actually what ended up being P6 and due to a disqualification because someone didn't have enough tread on their tyres as we come through the last corner. Now, as always is the case, I would like to get a good start and then get over to the inside to get the inside line for turn 1 and turn 2. As we come down, there is a gap, so I go to aim for the gap. As I understeer a little bit, I turn into the gap, touch the brakes, rears go, and I crash into the back of Luke Chard Maple, and unfortunately what it has done is it has knocked my bumper, and it means the bumper is a drop down, which means I have to pit to repair it, or in this case unfortunately retire from the race. So unfortunately that didn't go well. Tiny mistake. Basically, because I was putting the wet tyres on, I went for a full wet setup, and when you go for a full wet setup you extend and you widen the front track of the kart, but what it seems to have done is just made the kart incredibly snappy, and as I've turned and braked, the kart has just gone wide for me and sent me off and put me out of the race. Damn.
Alright, well that was a disaster. Yeah, so changed to a wet setup at last minute, and on my GX I'm used to going full width on the front for wet, and that's what we did for this. But I think what it's done is given me far too much front end, and as I've braked gently and I've turned, the rear's just snapped on me. I've gone and I've hit back at Luke. Luke didn't even know I hit him, so I already apologised to Luke, but car's fine, but I got a drop down on my front nose. But yeah, it is now dry. There is now a very clear dry line on the circuit. So we have changed back to slicks. So let's hope now that I have changed back to slicks, I have the same performance that I had in the first race. Let's go rescue this so we can get a good position for the final. Let's go.
Right, race 3, P11, slicks on a drying circuit. There is one contender who is currently on wets, so he's hoping to get away, and by the time his wet tyres die, that he is far enough ahead that we can't catch him. So, let's go, race 3, P11, let's go.
As we line up right behind Jazz, tucked up behind, waiting for the lights to go green, which they never actually do, but everyone races anyway. I swipe to the inside to cover the inside line, but there's no one else there, so I can swipe back to get a better run around the outside. However, I get a very good run out of this corner, and I manage to go around the outside of Jazz and the number 127 and take 2 places in one corner. I was quite happy with that, and now I can set my focus on the kart ahead, which is the number 50 of Rob. So I want to try and get past Rob as quickly as possible, as I noticed Tyler is also in front of him, and me and Tyler have enjoyed a couple of little battles during practice, and I would very much like to get past both of them. So as we come into the final corner, we are lining up Rob, and we're having a look around where I could possibly get him, but there's nowhere to be got at the moment. Maybe I can get a bit of a run and have a think about slinging it down to turn 1. Nope, I'm not going to have a go just there, but I keep it tight as he gets very, very wide through turn 1. I managed to sneak up into the inside. That is 3 people in 2 laps in the same corner. Very, very happy with that. However, because of my slide, Rob gets a lunge back up the inside of me, taps the side of my side pod, sends me wide. However, because he's an absolute gent, he waved me back past, but that meant Jazz tried to take advantage. I luckily had the inside line, so didn't actually lose out to anybody through Rob's little mistake on me into the hairpin. Luckily, everything was fine. I come through the final corner, and I am nice and clear. However, what it has done is all that fighting has meant Tyler has got away. So we need to get our head down and try and catch Tyler. And for the next 4 and a bit laps, I hone in on Tyler. I push and I push and I push, and I get closer and closer and closer. And by the end of the 5th lap of chasing him, I am right on his tail. Now it is time to fight him and pass him. Now I know Tyler is very, very keen on keeping me behind him, so passing him is not going to be easy. So what you are now going to see is one of the best battles I have had in GX all season. As we come out of the last corner, there was a yellow flag, but we couldn't quite see what it was. So I've pulled to the outside, but there was a piece of bodywork lying in the middle of the track. So I had to back right off, because if I hadn't have backed off, I'd have got done for overtaking under yellows. I'm quite lucky I didn't get done for speeding under yellows. Anyway, I put everything back together, and now it's time to think about where I can possibly catch and pass Tyler. However, remember what happens at Clay Pigeon when you fight. When you fight, people behind get a massive advantage because you just slow down. As I'm going inside and outside, trying to find different ways past Tyler, that yellow flag is still out, so I have to back off so I don't get an opportunity to overtake Tyler down the back straight. However, that piece of bodywork is now cleared, and Tyler and I are now free to race again. However, notice the car ahead of Tyler. That is the number 66 car of Christian, who started on the wet weather tyres. So this has now become a fight that is going to be for 4th place, as Jazz has a lunge up the inside of me because she has managed to catch back up to me thanks to the fight that I'm having with Tyler. This is about to turn into a 4-way fight. Who is going to come out on top? And as we get a good run out of the final corner with my mighty Tornado engines, I am round the outside through the kink, having a think about having a lunge into turn 1, but Tyler is just a little bit too far ahead. He runs quite wide, I take the inside line, so again I am right up behind him, and all the time we are catching Christian. I still have to pay attention to Jazz being behind me, but I really want to get ahead of Tyler as well. I'd really like an opportunity to end up in another P4 position, especially considering the DNF we had in the last race. So as now Tyler is now focusing on trying to overtake Christian is focusing on trying to just not crash, because he will be going sideways and be all over the place on those very, very sticky, soft, melty, wet tyres, as Jazz has a lunge up the inside of me going into the kink, but it puts her on the outside for turn 1. She is still around the outside. She's now on the inside somehow. Tyler has now managed to get past Christian. Now I want to get past Christian, because if I can't get past Christian quickly, Tyler's going to disappear off into the distance. I have a lunge down the inside of Christian, so me and Christian are now side by side, but I'm on the outside. Tyler misses his turning point, goes a little bit wide, gets on the wet stuff. Jazz is now pushing Christian. I now have to push Tyler. We are now side by side, with four of us going into the final corner, as Christian and Tyler are side by side. Let's make it 3 wide as we head into the kink. We are side by side. I'm past Tyler. Christian is ahead into turn 1. Tyler is actually still alongside me. I can take the tight line. I'm right tucked up behind Christian now, so I have to throw all caution to the wind here and have a lunge into the hairpin. As we go up the inside, we brake as late as we dare. We are up the inside of Christian. I managed to get a better run off of the corner, and that is the place secured, and that is P4 secured, as I'm now able to get away from this little battle and pull away. Whew! So as we enter the penultimate lap, I do not get challenged at all, and that secures me P4 on the road. However, what happens after the race? Luke Chard Maple actually gets disqualified for being underweight. So within my first 3 races in a Pro Kart, I've managed to secure myself a podium. Excellent. Let's roll on to the final.
Woo! That was fun. I enjoyed that. Jazz is rapid. That was wicked fun. Enjoyed that.
Well, that was fun. That was absolutely epic racing. Loads of respectful stuff in there. Somebody gave me a little nudge, and I don't know who it was, apologies, but someone gave me a little nudge and they waved me back through, which is really, really nice. I like that kind of racing. I would do exactly the same thing. But yeah, that went really, really well. We went from 11th to P4 on track, but then unfortunately Luke Chard Maple had been disqualified, so that actually means I was P3. So I've had a P4, a DNF and a P3. So haven't seen the finals for the grids yet, but I will come back to you when I do. But until then, we're going to have a little bit of a break, set the car up and go do a final.
So here we are, it's the final. Unfortunately we are starting P8 due to our DNF in the second race, but we've got good pace. I would love to get 4th. 4th would be a mega achievement. You know, driving this car for the first time, having difficulties, starting this far back, so that's the plan. It's a long final, 13 minutes plus 1 lap. Let's go get it, shall we? Whoa. That's up 1 place, because you're not allowed to retake your place. Whoa. Not allowed to retake a place.
So as we round the final corner, we had a very slow warming up lap, and that is going to cause us some issues later on. But we are now full power and heading towards turn 1 as the lights go green and everyone jostles for position. Tyler is on the inside. I would like to get past Tyler as quickly as possible, and the number 50 car of Rob on the left hand side as well, as we look at going through him through the chicane, but there's not quite a lot of space to go through. Tyler has got through and got us a gap. Rob's looking around, but I outbrake Rob into the hairpin and am now right up behind Tyler. I would very much like to get past Tyler as quickly as possible and go and chase after the top 4. As we come up towards the final corner, I get a good run through the corner and actually really launch really well off the corner as Tyler bogs down a little bit. I get alongside him through the kink. He's still there existing on the left hand side, but I keep it to the inside. He can't quite cut me off, and I take the shorter line to the chicane and take the position from him. Excellent work, very happy. Now it's time to go and chase after that top 4 and get what I came for. However, I'm not really sure what happened. I didn't quite have the pace of the top 4 that I had in previous races. I pushed hard, I tried hard to save my tyres, I tried to stop the rears sliding out, but I just could not match the guys up front. It's almost like for the final everyone found another gear and I didn't. I was taking the same lines, I hadn't really changed much of what I was doing, but I just could not get the pace out of the karts that everybody else got. I think what happened later on in the race as well was I overheated my tyres and I then started to drop back even further. So what you're going to see now is a few things that did happen. There was one thing that was incredibly frustrating through this race, which was because we had such a slow start and a slow run to the grid, we actually started getting blue flags really early, and I was being given the blue flags when no one was anywhere near me, so it caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting blue flags in these races from the Mod 160s, but they had obviously got round so quickly because we had started so slowly that they had started to lap us pretty quickly. And it was a real shame because it really distracted me, it cost me a whole bunch of time, and then put me into the grasps of the 2 karts behind.
I got totally and utterly distracted by the blue flag.
And by this point, and by the time I composed myself, the ever-talented Luke Chard Maple had managed to cruise up to the back of me. I knew he was behind me, I knew he was quicker, so I actually didn't fight him too hard. My plan was to try and stick to the back of him and go with him, but he just had loads more pace than me, and I couldn't really do anything about it. My plan was to try and stick with him, build my pace back up, and then attack him a little bit later, but it just never came, and actually what happened is I fell further and further back into the clutches of my rival from earlier races, number 63, Ewan Rayner. Also, one of the things I think is my biggest evaluation from watching back all this footage is I wasn't very good through the chicane. I could not keep the car in a straight line through the chicane, so it always left me very vulnerable for the hairpin, which is where Ewan managed to get through. I did actually manage to hang with Luke and Ewan a bit more than I thought I would, as Ewan attacks Luke and I get a little bit close, get very close into the braking zone for turn 1. It definitely turns out I was better than most people into turn 1. I was able to get on the brakes later and carry speed through the apex, and then I'd lose a lot of time coming through the chicane. I'd gain it all back up again on the brakes into the hairpin. I'd be very good through this section. As you can see, Ewan gets a little bit sideways. I come up the inside of him, but unfortunately I'm not far enough along the up the inside of him to keep the lead, so I have to let him back through. And then as we go through this corner, I come onto the back straight. I think about going wide on him, but I just don't have the legs to scoot round him around the outside. So I was keeping him honest, and as you can see, look, I close right up through turn 1, and then I go through the chicane. I carry a lot of curb and just kart just did not want to pick up off of the curb. I think a lot of that is down to my gearing. As I think I said earlier in the video, I was running a 2064 on my gearing when I maybe should have been running a 2065 or a 2066, but I didn't have the spares to be able to actually test that and see if it helped me perform better. And again, we're just getting through these corners. I was still getting a lot of sliding. I was trying very hard not to slide the kart, but in my attempt to not slide the kart, it was costing me time. So I would love to do this weekend again in a kart that didn't just constantly try and step out on me. As you saw it there, I just could not keep the kart in a straight line going through that corner, and they just pulled away from me. I just lost lots of time through the chicane, and that was kind of it. That's where I started to lose touch with them and where my race started to end.
All my pace disappeared though. It's a real shame.
And that's kind of it. That's where my final finished. I ended up 7th, which, to be fair, I'm not too disappointed with. I was up against a bunch of seasoned pro kart racers who've been racing in this series all season and know their karts and know how everything works. I was running on a chassis that wasn't mine, on a kart that I had no spares for. I couldn't change anything really to the setup, so I feel like I did a really good job with what I had been dealt with. My Tornado engines did really well. They were plenty powerful enough, so it gave me lots to fight with. Unfortunately, it had to again pull me through a poor handling kart, which, hey, listen, it shows how good those engines are. If you are actually interested in buying some new engines, Tornado, based at Wright House, are a really great bet. If you go to the description below, I'll put their email address, and if you send them an email and you tell them that you got the information from me, you will get a 10% discount on any engine that you buy. I will also be releasing a video soon, which actually is me visiting Tornado's facility and going through everything what they do, and hopefully answering questions that people want answered on engines. And you know, if there's plenty of unanswered questions, we can go back and ask those questions to them. So if you want to learn more about engines, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, and click the bell to get notified for when that next video goes live.
So that was a really fun day. Really enjoyed the Pro Karts. They're great fun to drive. That kart's a little bit wild in the rear for my liking. A little bit wild in the rear for me. But yeah, had an absolute ball. The Pro Karts people are awesome. Everyone was super lovely and helpful. When I had an issue with the rear width of the kart, and everyone chipped in to try and help resolve an issue, which we ended up sorting out. So yeah, so if you want to have a go in a Pro Kart, get in touch with Richard Melton Baxter. His information's in the description below, and he will rent you a kart for a weekend. So yeah, anyway, P7, I will take that. Really fun day. And yeah, we're going out for the prize giving now, which you should see some of that kind of up there somewhere. But anyway, thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.
What? Nearly rolled.
Paul almost dropped his pizza.
Nearly rolled. Dry, innit? Here we are at the most boring circuit in the country.
For the 18th time this
Flat
season.
Out. It's flat out and it's flat and it's wet.